Hey, what's up everybody? Jumpin here, and today I'm going to be continuing my series, All My Builds, where I show you all my builds for each class. Today we're going to be doing the Sentinels, which is awesome because I love the Sentinels. I really enjoy them. I know a lot of people think that the Sentinels are probably like one of the worst class, well, the all-round worst class, but that's not the truth. There's a lot of great Sentinels in the game, and they're some of my favorites, to be honest. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started with this. We're going to be starting with the human. Now, the first thing I wanted to say is that, once again, if you want to find gameplays for all the Sentinels, just look at the annotations if you're on your PC. Or, you can look in the description and you can find gameplay links to each of these guys if you want to see some gameplay. The only thing is that, unfortunately, the only person I have never done, the only build I have never done before for a gameplay is the human Sentinel. That's the only one, which is crazy to me, but yeah, that is the truth. The only build in the game. But I will show you my build for it because I have played with it here and there, and I do somewhat like it. I don't know. But, alright, so the weapon I recommend for the human Sentinel is, well, the Talon. The reason why the Talon is because I love the Talon, as you may know. And this is one of those builds where I recommend Disruptor ammo with the piercing and the extended the extended barrel, not magazine. And the whole idea is that you're going to set up enemies for tech bursting. And then you can throw them. If you throw them, they'll tech burst. That's just the way it works. But the great thing about it is that he can also do explosions, so you can warp them to detonate your tech burst and then throw them to go ahead and do an explosion. So it's like a really good combination, honestly. So that's just something you guys got to remember. So I definitely recommend the Talon for tech bursting / doing explosions once you set them up. Now for the build. Alright, for tech armor, I like damage and radius. Now I know a lot of guys think, durability is the way to go. But the truth of the matter is that I like damage and radius because the one enemy this guy has a lot of trouble against are phantoms. I mean, he has a lot of trouble against phantoms just because they're really hard to hit with warp. They're really hard to hit with throw. They're really hard to shoot. So this right here is really good for just taking them out. You run up and you blow them up. And it does a really decent amount of damage. 740, 4.5 meter radius. Definitely decent. So keep that in mind. Now moving on, power damage. Now one thing about the human Sentinel, which is kind of unknown, a lot of people don't know this, is that his explosions are actually, believe it or not, like the strongest in the entire game because of the tech armor. He's the only adept that actually gets this much power damage bonus. It's a total of 65%. The only other person in the game that actually comes close to touching him is actually the Demolisher, because the Demolisher gets 65% passive damage, power damage bonus. But with the tech armor, he gets 65% as well. So it's great for his explosions, and they're super strong. Now moving on, I know a lot of people are going to say definitely go for power recharge, but I actually don't recommend that. Reason why is because if you do use a gun with 200% like me, I wouldn't really worry. I mean, tech armor only lowers your time by 50% now, so that's really not that bad. It extends your warp, I think, by like 0.5 of a second if you have 200%. It's not much. It's like 3 seconds for the warp recharge. And like I said, this guy's going to be more about just doing a combination of explosions and doing a combination of and the combination of doing tech burst. So that's just how I recommend him. And he's human. He's flimsy, he dies easily, even with the tech armor, so I think durability is definitely worth it, just to help him stay alive longer. Alright, now moving on for warp, this is the standard warp that you've seen so much. Detonate, expose, and pierce. Now for throw, this is the same way I always set up throw. Radius, detonate, force, and damage. For alliance training, I just go for damage and capacity and power damage. And for fitness, I leave it at 3. Now, the one thing about this guy, you definitely want to use a cyclonic modulator. You definitely really need that. You need to extend his shield a lot, so that with this tech armor and the 45% damage reduction, he'll actually be able to stay alive like a lot longer. The human soldier is the only other human in the game that is actually really tanky besides the Destroyer. The Destroyer is pretty tanky too. So, alright. Now moving on. Next up is going to be the Turian Sentinel. Now for the Turian Sentinel, you can use a ton of different guns. Don't think that this is the only gun you need to use to Piranha. You can use any gun you want, honestly. I like the Talon. I like all the assault rifles for him, like Service Harrier. But I also think that the Piranha is extremely good on him. So I would recommend the Piranha. So that's the reason why I have that on, because for my Turian Sentinel, as of recent, I've been using the Piranha on him exclusively. That's it. So that's just what you need to remember. Now for the build, tech armor at 3. So just even at 3, guys, this is good. 35% damage reduction. Definitely good. Now for warp, once again, same way I always set it up: detonate, expose, and pierce. For overload, same way I always set it up: chain overload, recharge speed, and shield damage. I really do think it's extremely important to get both these up. I love the fact that I can weaken armor by 50% with pierce, and the fact that, you know, it debuffs. And with overload, you have to get shield damage if you want to take the shields off of enemies on gold with this Turian. Otherwise, you just will not do it. So keep that in mind. Now for Turian Veteran, I just go for damage and stability and power damage. And for fitness, I go for all shields. Alright. Moving on now to the Krogan, who is probably the most underused Sentinel, but definitely is a lot of fun to play, I think. The gun I recommend actually for him is the Claymore. You can actually strap on any other gun you want to get even the Typhoon or Harrier. You can use 2 guns on this build. I don't recommend that though, because once again, I do like to detonate my tech armor from time to time, just so I can deal with phantoms. And if you detonate your tech armor and you have a massive negative power recharge speed, I mean, you're going to be waiting for like a whole minute to put it back on. And you don't want that. So keep that in mind. But the reason why I recommend the Claymore is because, I mean, it makes sense. He's a Krogan. Why not? But the other thing is that it's really easy to reload cancel the Claymore on a character in the game that can't dodge, like the Krogan and the Turians and the Batarians. If you just press the dodge button, left and A, right and A, down and A, up and A, if you press, or just A, if you press like any of those buttons, you can reload cancel. So keep that in mind. So guns like the Claymore are really good on something like this. Now for the build, for tech armor, I use, once again, damage and radius, just because I like the idea of having that, just having that extra, just for phantoms mainly. I like it. I really do. I just like that idea. Power damage for the next one. Reason why power damage is because his lift grenades are, once again, very strong because of this. I love this 30% boost. It's amazing. But for him, you definitely want the durability. He has no power. There's no point to mess with the power. Now moving on to the lift grenades. Damage, max grenades. I don't think duration is ever worth it. Don't ever go for that. You want the max grenades. And then damage and radius for just, I mean, look how strong they are. 1518. It's pretty freaking godly. For the Krogan Battlemaster, weapons damage, power damage, and weapons damage. And for the fitness, all shields. And I mean, by far, he's one of the most tanky people in the game. Probably, to be honest, well, the Krogan Vanguard is definitely the most tanky just because he can charge. But the Krogan Sentinel just, ooh, he just eats damage. Alright, now moving on to the Batarian Sentinel. And you recently just seen this build, but I'll show it again. I recommend the Talon with piercing and extended barrel just because this is for the tech bursting with the disruptor ammo. Now for the build, blade armor at 3, just because it will give you 25% damage reduction. Why not? For shockwave, I go for radius and reach. I don't think there's a point to go for lifting or recharge speed. For submission net, I like damage, but I would not recommend this anymore. I would recommend incapacitate. So keep that in mind. I would recommend incapacitate, guys. Incapacitate! Like, I have to repeat that, because otherwise someone's going to say, well, you know, incapacitate, I think, is pretty good. I would disagree with you, sir. And I'm like, I said it in the video! I said it 5 times! and you still didn't hear me. So I got to make that clear. I recommend this. This was a mistake. This. Alright, moving on to damage and slow. Once again, I don't know. Like, yeah, I would go for this if you're going to use a talent. If you're going to use something heavier, though, like the Claymore or, let's say, the Service Harrier, definitely go for the recharge speed, because he's all about setting up his own tech burst with the net. And then finally, Electrical Field, which is amazing because they gave it the big boost a while back. Now for Batarian Enforcer, weapons damage, so 7.5%, and you get the spare ammo. Power damage, and then weapons damage and ammo again. And then finally, all shield. Okay, so now moving on to one of my favorite Sentinels, the Vorcha Sentinel. Now the thing about the Vorcha Sentinel is that I definitely prefer this build over the other soldier build. I told you before about the soldier build is that, well, the problem with the Vorcha, the number one problem is that they're pretty much the same freaking thing. And the best way to set it up is with the rear carbine and flamer. But because they're the same thing, there's really no point to do that. So I like to make my soldier a little bit different with Carnage. And the Sentinel is the one that I like to use if I'm going to use a Vorcha, to be honest. Because this is definitely the best way to set up the Vorcha. And the gun you're going to want to use, like I said, is the rear carbine. I like to use piercing on it, or melee, if I'm going to use armor-piercing ammo. But I do use the piercing most of the time on the gun, so I don't have to. And extended barrel. Now for the build, I use Bloodlust, health regeneration, weapons damage, and health regeneration. Remember, guys, this is all times 3 because of Bloodlust. For Flamer, I like damage, and armor damage, just for a massive amount of damage. It's 430 points of DPS, which is insanity! But with the armor damage, that's even more. So it just wrecks armor, and the rear carbine just wrecks shield. Now, the way you play with this, though, is that if you press the trigger or the button to fire your gun, whatever button that is, and you fire the rear carbine, and then you press the button for flamer, after you do that, you'll actually be able to shoot the flamer and the rear carbine at the exact same time, increasing your total damage to be insanity. I mean, it's so strong and good. So keep that in mind. That is the thing. That's what makes him broken and overpowered, is the fact he can do that. And you'll definitely wreck a lot of enemies. Well, pretty much like every enemy, because it's the best of two worlds. It really is. Alright, moving on. For the Vorcha, I go for weapons damage, power damage, weapons damage. And for the fitness, I actually go for durability, martial artist, and then fitness expert. The reason why is because you don't need shield recharge. His shield is so low and so whacked that just go for the martial artist. There's no point. It's only 400, so that's really whack. And you don't, it's all about his health. It's not about his shield, so just keep that in mind. Alright, now moving on to the last one, which is probably the best one, honestly, is the N7 Paladin. I love the N7 Paladin. He's so much fun to play. I play him all the time, and he's amazing. So, definitely my favorite Sentinel in the game. The second favorite I have is probably the Turian, to be honest, but this guy is definitely number one. Alright, so the gun I have on him is actually the Scorpion. Now, the thing about it, though, don't really recommend the Scorpion ever, but this is a really good gun for, like, platinum farming or just camping. I mean, this gun is so great for camping, but it's also okay for running around. And the thing about it, I don't know why I keep coughing, guys. I'm a little sick, so you have to excuse me for that. But anyway, guys, the thing about it, though, about the Scorpion, is that it's actually really good, to be honest. Like, it's really good for setting up tech bursts. That's the thing. Now, normally what I do like to do is either use the Scorpion, or actually I also use the Talon a lot. So if I'm camping, I like to use the Scorpion. If I'm running around, I like to use the Talon. The reason why is because, once again, if you strap on disruptor ammo with this gun or with this gun, you can set up enemies so quick. Once they're set up, Snap Freeze can detonate. Let me repeat this. Snap Freeze can detonate tech bursts. And I never thought in a million worlds that it would actually do that. The reason why is because it's cryo. Cryo is not supposed to be able to do that. It's not. Fire and cryo is not supposed to be able to detonate tech bursts. Well, maybe fire can because of incinerate, but at least cryo. I never thought it would actually detonate tech bursts, but it does, and it is by far one of the best detonators in the game. Alright, so now for the build. Energy drain, obviously. I like the radius, drain, and I like the damage, honestly. I know armor boost is good, and a lot of people always say go for this. I'd rather just take the shield off an enemy all the way, and most of the time you can pretty much take the shield all the way down. The more you drain, the more shields you're going to get back. So that's just the way I feel about it. I want to get all my shields back. Now for snap freeze, I like reach. Now, here's the thing. I have duration and slow, but honestly, go for the cryo explosion. I went for that. I went for this experimenting, but I would say cryo explosion is better. It's just a 10% debuff, so go for the 10% debuff. This did not work the way I thought it would. I thought that this could potentially slow down phantoms to be really slow, but it doesn't, so fuck it, I don't really care. So instead, I'd rather just go for the cryo explosion. Now, I don't know this, guys. Maybe someone can tell me, but I've heard a long time ago that the tech combo is glitched. It doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, don't go for it. But I've been wanting to know this for a long time, because if it is not glitched, this would be a lot better. I like damage and weakness a lot, because it does extend your damage. It weakens armor targets by 50%. Really, really good. But for the whole tech bursting thing I just told you about, if you can set up enemies, this is like one of the best detonating powers in the game. So just because it has so much reach, it can go through walls, it can do a lot of great things. And if this actually was not glitched, this would definitely be the best, just because your tech burst would just be so much stronger. It would be double damage. So keep that in mind, guys. So someone please tell me that. I've always wanted to know that. But like I said, because I have always heard it was glitched, I just go for damage and weakness, because I'd rather go for the one that works than the one that doesn't work. That's the best, pretty much the best velocity. Now for the N7 Paladin, I like the damage and capacity, power damage, and then weapons damage. And for the shield mastery, I like the durability, the shield recharge, and the cryo shield. Because the cryo shield will weaken armor by 50%, and the snap freeze will weaken armor by 50%. So, and they stack, so that's 100% weaken armor, and you can drop bosses in like 2 seconds with that. Alright guys, I really hope you enjoyed the Sentinels. They are definitely pretty good. The Paladin is the best one, but a lot of them are a lot of fun to play and awesome. Now remember, if you want to see any gameplays, there's links in the description, there's links in the annotations. Unfortunately, I don't have the human Sentinel. That's the only one I don't have. But, you know, you can find any other ones. So, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a like. That would definitely help me out. And like always, guys, have a nice day.